Shalom lekulam! Welcome to part 2 of our lesson series on Hebrew suffixes. In this lesson, we're going to take a close look at how Hebrew suffixes are used to indicate gender and number. Let's go! Indicating gender and number is one of the many important purposes of suffixes in the Hebrew language. In Hebrew, every noun has a gender. A noun is either masculine or feminine. There is no gender-neutral noun. As a general rule, most masculine nouns become plural by adding the suffix im. In this example, we have the masculine noun apple, tapuach, and we add the suffix im to make it plural. Tapuchim means apples. Tapuach, tapuchim. And on the other side, we have an example of how most feminine nouns become plural by adding the suffix ot. So we have a feminine noun here, uga, that means cake. And to make it plural, we add ot. So it becomes ugot, cakes. Uga, cake, ugot, cakes. So this is the general rule. But as you will see later on in this lesson, there are exceptions to this rule. Now, an important principle to understand is that Hebrew adjectives will always agree in gender, number, and definiteness with the noun that they describe. Let's look at these examples. So, tapuach ta'im, that means delicious apple. Okay, so because tapuach is a masculine noun, so we use the masculine adjective delicious to describe it, tapuach ta'im. But look at cake. So because cake is a feminine noun, instead of saying ta'im, which means delicious, we say te'ima because that is the feminine version of this adjective. So ugat te'ima. Tapuach ta'im, uga te'ima. Because there is an agreement in gender when it comes to describing a noun, right? If it's a masculine noun, we use a masculine adjective. And if it's a feminine noun, we use a feminine adjective. And you'll also see that there is an agreement in the number. So if there's plurality, here we have tapuchim te'imim, okay, delicious apples. So the adjective also becomes plural by adding im. So tapuchim te'imim. So delicious apples. So on the other side, on the feminine side, so if we want to say delicious cakes, ugot te'imot. So te'imot is the feminine plural form of the adjective delicious. So te'imot, ugot te'imot. So we're going to look at this principle in more detail later on. So let's take a close look at the suffixes that indicate number and gender of nouns. So the suffix im usually indicates the plural form of masculine words. So we already saw the example of tapuach, which is a masculine noun, apple. It becomes tapuchim if we want to say apples. And another example here is sefer. Sefer is a masculine noun. It means book. And to say books, we say sfarim. We add im. So that's following the general rule. On the feminine side, we said that the suffix ot usually indicates the plural form of feminine words. So matana is a feminine word which means gift. So we add the suffix ot to make it matanot. That means gifts. We already saw the example of uga. Uga means cake. It's a feminine noun. And to make it plural, we add ot. So it becomes ugot. Uga, ugot. So these nouns that we're looking at here are following the general principle, general rule. However, there are exceptions. So while most of the time Hebrew masculine nouns become plural by adding im and Hebrew feminine nouns become plural by adding ot, there are exceptions to the rule. So let's look at the exceptions on the masculine side. So ner is a masculine noun, which means candle. So if it followed the general rule, it to make it plural, it would have been nerim, but that is not the case. Ner is one of those exceptions. Ner becomes plural by adding ot instead of im. So ner means candle, nerot means candles. See, it's not following the general rule of adding im. Another example is shulchan. Shulchan means table and it's a masculine noun. So you'd say, oh, it should add im to make it plural. So shulchan, shulchanim. But no. Shulchan becomes plural by adding ot. Shulchan means table. Shulchanot means tables. So see, those are exceptions. Now let's look at some examples of feminine nouns that don't follow the general rule of adding ot to make them plural. So the Hebrew word for bird is tzipor. It's a feminine noun. So normally it would have added ot, tzipor, tziporot, okay, to become plural. But no, it's an exception to the rule, and tzipor becomes plural by adding im instead of ot. So tzipor means bird, tziporim means birds. Okay, this is a feminine noun. Now, another example is beitza. Beitza means egg, and egg in Hebrew is a feminine noun. So you'd say, well, it should add ot, right? Beitza, beitzot. But no, it's an exception to the rule. So beitza means egg, and to be plural, it becomes beitzim, to say eggs. So it adds im instead of ot. Okay. So please note that there are more than 180 exceptions to the rule of adding the im suffix to make masculine nouns plural and adding the ot suffix to make feminine nouns plural. So it's really a matter of memorizing, which nouns add im, which nouns add ot to make them plural. And in the description of this video, I have placed links to sites which give lists of exceptions to this rule. So it's really a matter of, increasing your vocabulary as you continue learning Hebrew. Actually, that's how children learn. They don't really read grammar books. Right? They just learn the language naturally as they grow up. That's the same for any Hebrew learner. Another thing that you will notice as you increase your vocabulary is the fact that some nouns have irregular plural forms, like these examples here. So the Hebrew word for man is ish, that means man or person. And to make it plural, it becomes anashim. It's okay. Why didn't it become ishim? Well, it becomes anashim to say men or people. That's just how it is. And same for isha. Okay, isha means wife or woman. And to make it plural, it becomes nashim. Okay, doesn't become ishot. So isha, nashim. So these are just some examples of nouns that have irregular plural forms. And note as well that some nouns are always plural. Okay, like shamayim. Shamayim means sky, and mayim means water. Okay, now let's see how adjectives agree with the gender and the number of nouns that they describe. In Hebrew, the adjective comes after the noun it describes. So to say delicious apple, okay, in English we say the adjective first before the noun that it describes, delicious apple. In Hebrew, it's the reverse. It's apple delicious. So to say delicious apple, we say tapuach ta'im. Tapuach means apple. That's the noun. And if we want to say that that apple is delicious, we say ta'im. Tapuach ta'im. Tapuach ta'im. And same for the plural versions. So if we want to say delicious apples, we say tapuchim. We say the noun first. Okay, tapuchim, apples. And we want to say they're delicious. We say te'imim. Okay, so the plural version of this adjective is te'imim. Tapuchim, te'imim. Tapuach, ta'im. Tapuchim, te'imim. Delicious apple, delicious apples. Now here's a very important principle regarding adjectives. Hebrew adjectives will always agree in gender, number, and definiteness with the noun that they describe. So if it's a masculine noun, okay, the adjective will have a masculine form. Okay, even if that noun does not follow the general rule of, adding im to make it plural if it's masculine, or adding ot to make it plural if it's feminine. Okay, so the best way to understand that is to look at examples. So here let's look at an example of a noun that follows the general rule. We'll look at the exceptions later on. So sefer tov. Sefer is a masculine noun, and to say good book, okay, we add the adjective tov, which is the masculine version of this adjective. Sefer tov, good book. Now, to see the plural versions, if you want to say good books, we have sfarim tovim. Okay, so sfarim is plural, so the adjective is also plural. The noun is masculine, so the plural adjective is also masculine. Tovim. So sfarim tovim. Good books. So we said that Hebrew adjectives will always agree with the gender, number, and definiteness of the noun being described. So even if a masculine noun exceptionally takes on a feminine plural suffix like ot, the adjective will ignore that. The adjective will still use the im suffix to agree with the masculine gender of the noun to make it plural. Okay, let's look at an example. So, ner is a masculine noun, right? So, to say small candle, we use the adjective katan. Katan is a masculine form of the adjective which means small. So, ner katan, okay, that means small candle. What if we want to say small candles? If we want to describe those two candles there and we want to say they are small. Okay. So we saw earlier that ner does not follow the rule of adding im to make it plural. Even if ner is a masculine noun, it becomes plural by adding the feminine suffix ot, nerot. Okay, but it's masculine noun. So the adjective will say, oh, it's a masculine noun, so I will add im to my masculine plural form. Okay, so katan, katanim. So why is it adding im? It's nerot. Wouldn't it be nerot katanot? No. because the rule is that Hebrew adjectives don't care if that noun did not follow the general rule of adding im to make it plural if it's masculine and adding ot to make it plural if it's feminine. What it is looking at is that the noun, this candle is a masculine noun. So if I want to make it plural, okay, as an adjective, it will add the plural suffix im, even if that noun became plural by adding a suffix that is contrary to its gender. So nerot ketanim. See, so here you have a combination of a feminine suffix and a masculine suffix. In the end, the Hebrew adjective will always insist on the gender of that noun. So, ner katan, small candle, perfect. Okay, you have a masculine, a singular noun, you have a masculine singular adjective. And to make it plural, so small candles becomes nerot katanim, because the adjective will always agree with the gender of that noun. It's male, so the adjective will be masculine. And since Hebrew adjectives also agree with the definiteness of the noun being described, so the adjective will also be a definite adjective. So let's take a look at this example. So previously we saw a small candle. It's just any candle. But here we want to say the small candle. We're talking about a particular candle, a definite candle. So haner, ha means the candle, haner, the small one, hakatan, that the small candle. That's how we say the small candle in Hebrew, haner hakatan. So we use the article the. And so to make that plural, if we want to say the small candles, we're talking about particular candles here. Okay, not just any candles. The small candles over there, for example. So we say hanerot haktanim. Hanerot haktanim. So we add ha, we had a definite article. Because Hebrew adjectives also agree with the definiteness of the noun being described. It's not just any noun, it's a particular noun we are referring to. So haner hakatan, that means the small candle. If you want to say the small candles, plural, hanerot haktanim. Okay, now let's see another example using a feminine noun. Okay, so tzipor is a bird. Okay, it's a feminine noun. So to say blue bird, we say tzipor khula. Okay, kahol is the masculine version of this adjective, which means blue. But since we're referring to a feminine noun, we said that Hebrew adjectives would always agree with the gender of what is being described. So tzipor khula. Okay, khula is a feminine adjective which means blue. So tzipor khula. If you want to say blue birds, it becomes tziporim khulot. Okay, so we saw previously that tzipor does not follow the general rule of adding ot, even if it's a feminine noun. It adds with an im. It adds an im as a suffix. Okay, tziporim. But the adjective will ignore that. The adjective will say, oh, bird, tzipor, is a feminine noun. So I will make it plural by adding ot. So blue becomes chulot, ot, not chulim. So tziporim, chulot, not tziporim, chulim. It will be tziporim, chulot, because the adjective we'll always look at the gender of that noun. It's a feminine noun, so it will have a feminine adjective. It's plural, so it adds ot. So tziporim chulot, blue birds. Now, in this example, we are talking about the bluebird. Okay, maybe we're referring to a particular bird, a particular bluebird, so the bluebird. So, because Hebrew adjectives also agree with the definiteness of the noun being described, it will add the article the. So, hatzipor, ha means the bird, okay, hatzipor, the blue one, okay, hachula, the blue one, okay, hatzipor hachula. Hatzipor hachula, that's how we say the bluebird in Hebrew, because it's a definite bird. We're talking about a particular bluebird. That bluebird, the bluebird, Hatzipor hachula. And using the same principle of agreeing with definiteness of the noun. So to say the bluebirds, okay, Hatziporim hachulot. Okay, literally that's saying the birds, the blues. Of course, that doesn't exist in English. Okay, but in Hebrew, that's how it is. Hatziporim, okay, the birds, and you want to say the blue birds, right? So ha chulot, the blue one, blue in the plural form of this adjective, which means blue, which is a feminine adjective. So hatziporim hachulot, the bluebirds. Hatzipor hachula, the bluebird. Hatziporim hachulot, the bluebirds. Okay, so that wraps up part 2 of our lesson series on Hebrew suffixes. We saw how Hebrew suffixes are used to indicate gender and number using nouns and adjectives. In part 3 of our lesson series on Hebrew suffixes, we're going to see how suffixes indicate directionality towards something or someone. Thanks a lot for watching. להתראות. See you next time. Bye.